In this video, we'll discuss different types of interfaces that can exist on a Junos device. The first type of interface is what we call a permanent interface, and a permanent interface is always present on the router. Examples of permanent interfaces are the management interfaces and also the internal Ethernet interfaces. The management Ethernet interfaces is the primary interface that we use for accessing the device remotely and administering that device. It connects to the device's internal network and enables the administrators to connect and perform their administration. The internal Ethernet interface allows communication between the routing engine and the packet forwarding engine, and it's automatically configured by the Junos device. Another type of interface on Junos devices is transient interfaces, and these are interfaces that can be removed, moved, or replaced by the network administrator. Now, there's a number of different examples of transient interfaces, such as fast Ethernet interfaces, gigabit Ethernet, ATM interfaces, SONET interfaces, T1 and E1 interfaces for WAN-type connectivity. Those are all examples of transient interfaces that can be added or removed from the Junos device. One of the common interface types that we work with day in and day out is our networking interfaces, and these allow the device to get a physical connection to the network or to other devices themselves, and their primary function is to provide connectivity to the network. These networking interfaces, they require configuration before they can be used or before they're operational on the device itself, and there's kind of two forms of configuration. We have physical configuration, where you configure the physical properties of the interface or of the link itself. And examples of those properties are things like, the clocking speed, the encapsulation protocol that would be used to carry the data across that link, the MTU setting, any keep alive settings. All of those can be configured as physical properties of the link itself. Once you configure the physical properties, then you turn around and configure the logical properties, of the logical interface associated with that link. So the first thing to note with these logical properties is there's a logical unit number that's assigned to the interface, and it allows the interface to send and receive traffic. And these kind of act as sub-interfaces, which is a term we're familiar with other networking environments or other device manufacturers. So the interface could be divided up into multiple sub-interfaces, starting with that first logical unit number. Now, examples of properties that are configured on the logical interface are things like your layer 3 protocol. So if you're going to be using IP version 4 on the protocol, then you need to configure that on the logical interface. And to go along with that, you would need your layer 3 address or the IP address as well, right? So you've got your physical characteristics or physical properties that are configured, and then you go and configure the logical properties on the logical interface for that link itself. Another type of interface that we see on Juniper devices is services interfaces. And services interfaces allow you to add functionality or networking services to the device, through these interfaces. So they provide specific capabilities to manipulate the traffic. And there's a number of different examples of services interface functionality that can be added to your device. And a lot of it deals with, encapsulation of the data, so that the data is manipulated in a certain way. So, for instance, they have queuing services that can be added. There's GRE encapsulation services, so they do have an interface service for that as well. PPOE encapsulation interface. There's tunneling protocols or tunneling service interfaces that can be added for, VPN type communication or IPsec encryption. So a large number of different service interfaces that can be added to the device to add that specific type of functionality to the device. The last type of interface here to mention is what we call a container interface. And a container interface is a very specific type of interface that gives or adds support for automatic protection switching, or APS. And what this allows us to do is to have our physical links kind of logically grouped together. So, and these are specific to things like SONET links, right? So you could have two SONET links, which are two totally physical different interfaces, right? Instead of configuring the interfaces individually, kind of so that they're totally separate interfaces, we kind of logically group them together in a container interface, and you perform your configuration on the container interface so that those two physical links are treated as one unit. And they're actually termed what they call the working interface versus the protected interface, or the working link and the protected link. So the idea is that the working link would be used for communication, but when it fails, the protected link would become the working link. So it would kind of take over responsibility for communication. So instead of having you configure those individually as separate elements, right, the container interface is the we'll call it the failover unit, right? So you configure the container interface to add failover capabilities to the working and protected links themselves. So this adds automatic protection switching capabilities, or automatic switchover capabilities to those two links. The last point here to mention is that the automatic protection switching parameters are automatically copied from the container interface to the members of that interface. So you've got a working link and a protected link that's part of the container interface. When you configure the container interface, those parameters are then copied down to the two physical links that are inside that container interface. So in this video, we discussed different types of interfaces on Juniper devices.